the left of the banner. I've got this fine-looking man to my left. I've got this fine-looking man to my right. Please come close. A little step to your right. All right. Wonderful. Gather around, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We originally thought we would speak out there, but I didn't want to put you all in the sun because this might go for about 20 or 30 minutes. We've got some wonderful people who are going to talk to you about this fantastic book. Okay? My name is Ocean Reeve and I am the book publisher of this wonderful book, Storm Clouds and Silver Linings, My Journey by Tom Stodulka. So before I actually get underway with what I have to say, I'd like you all to give Tom a huge round of applause for achieving this wonderful moment. I've been in the publishing industry for about 16 years, and when I first got into it, it was in traditional publishing. And one of the things that drew me to creativity was poetry. And I remember back in the early 2000s, there was a poet called Pooja Mittal, and we published her book, and we all felt it was wonderful. Unfortunately, it was at the time when poetry took a dive in the industry. It wasn't as popular as it once was. And a lot of the people in my industry felt it will never get a resurgence. I've always felt that that was not the case, that poetry would always connect with the individual, with the group, and touch the heart, which I think it always has. Over the years, I have published several collections of poetry, but when I met Tom, it changed a little bit for me. So I'm going to tell you a small story. Tom was introduced to me by Linda, who you'll hear from today. And to actually go through this book and through all his poems, we had to take a bit of a drive. Myself and Jason, who you'll also meet, the Flash, we drove down to New South Wales to see an author, and during that drive, we critiqued every single one of Tom's poems. Every single one. And I'm sure he was sitting up here going, I hope they're all good. I hope they're all good. As we were driving, we would personally reflect on each one. And myself and Flash would discuss what it meant to us. And every single one of them, even the ones about his family, connected with us, which is remarkable. That's not common. Then we were brutal, and we were actually culling some of them. And I can't remember how many you gave me, mate, but we culled 19.
They're for the second book.
After the second book. True that, Tom.
That'll be cheaper.
Believe me, he hasn't stopped writing, which is fantastic. On the way back from New South Wales, we'd made our decision. We knew the ones we wanted to come back to Tom and say, look, mate, we're going to break this into 4 wonderful sections. These are the poems we feel are going to be reflective of those sections. What do you think? I received a phone call, and this is just before Christmas. And it was Linda. And Linda had brought a few of her authors together, Bridget, Edna, and Thomas. And we're driving and we're feeling good, and we've just gone through some amazing work, and these guys wanted to thank me for the work I'd done bringing their books to life. And Tom was a huge part of that moment, and he made me cry. They all made me cry, and it was remarkable. What'd you do that for?
Don't make me cry.
But it built something between me and Tom that was quite special for all of these authors, because they are all quite special. Anybody that brings a story into the world absolutely has something special to share. So over the coming months, Tom, myself and Flash have worked through the publishing process. We've worked with Darren, our videographer, and interviewed Tom. Who hasn't seen the interview? Come on, you guys seen that interview with Tom? Fantastic. And just recently, Tom was in the studio reciting some of his poetry, which was fantastic as well. So it's been one hell of a journey, and it isn't over, is it? Far from it.
I've only got a few more years left.
We better make the most of it.
Oh, come on, Tom.
All right. So I'm going to be your MC this afternoon as we just hear from a few people that mean a lot to Tom, and as they reflect on both their relationship with him and also his poetry. So first and foremost, we're going to welcome up Tom's colleague who shares this wonderful place with him. And I'd like to introduce Carl Manning. Round of applause.
Tom. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. What an honour and
Stop.
See, it's about nature, and it's about friends and family. So that's really good to be able to recognise what's happening in the nature. It's an honour and a privilege to have the opportunity to speak this afternoon. and to sort of help kick off the launch of Tom's book on this lovely afternoon. I've had the privilege of hearing some of Tom's poems in a private reading sort of setting after mediations, and it's almost a form of, for those, I'd like to acknowledge all the mediators present, for those of us who enjoy or need our debrief after difficult mediations. It's something that's intertwined with the debriefing process. Tom, I think, finds a lot of solace in his poetry, and then in sharing it with us, it helps us as well to put things into perspective and to look after ourselves, emotionally and personally, and it's a very powerful tool in that way. And so I'm sure you'll hear from Tom and from the other speakers how much his poems are obviously related to experiences in mediation, but also the most important thing that I notice about Tom is he's a humanist. He takes such a deep interest in people from all walks of life. He gets to know everybody's name, and he touches them personally, and that's where his rapport comes from, which is a very powerful tool when it comes to mediation. And both of us being, I guess, lawyers once before, or still somehow, but really mediators, it's so interesting to run your day-to-day work through a humanist looking glass rather than an adversarial looking glass, and bringing people together to resolve issues rather than bearing an axe or driving them apart. So Tom's profession for the last 30 or so years, I guess, has been in this area, and it suits him well. And so he's seen very much as an elder statesman of mediators, and so it's an honour to be able to work with him. And we've had the great fortune of being able to set up a Sunshine Coast office here as a mediation service, together with Frank Castles, who is also a dispute resolution practitioner, and we. As you can see, we have a lovely space here, the mediation room right behind you, and it's a nice thing to be able to have the book launch here. It's a very unique way of introducing community and colleagues to this venue as a work venue or as a mediation venue as well. So what a great idea. So I'm sure all of those of you who know Tom well know what a lovely and wonderful guy he is, and we'll be hearing a lot more of that, no doubt, from the other speakers. But I'd again thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I'm grateful to have that, and wish you all well this afternoon. And Tom, best wishes with the book. So, yeah.
Felt pretty good, mate. Hey? See, when I met Tom, he was clean shaven. Have you guys noticed this? And then he comes into the studio and he's all collared up, but it was tucked away under his jacket. I said, Tom, there's something about this. Maybe there's a new look for you, where there's this T-shirt and jacket. You look so cool today, mate. You really do. There was another memory I have in the early stages of working with Tom, which was about performance poetry. And when I first heard his poem read out loud, it was actually at the closing of the Autumn Leaves bookstore. And it was quite profound, because I didn't really know how he was going to be able to perform this, but it's with the greatest of ease. So one of my missions is actually to get him on stage with an audience at a poetry slam, and you bust out some of your magic. Watch this space, mate.
Thank you.
It's all happening. Okay, now you haven't shared this journey with just me, mate. There's been another person that's played a very important role in bringing this book to life. And I'm quietly jealous, because you took him out for dinner a few times. When's my turn? Do I get to go? Hope it's coming. Look, we can't publish great work without an awesome team. And one of my number one, my left arm, right arm, whatever you want to call him, is the Flash, Jason Smith. He's an author himself, but more importantly, he understands the creative process. He understands what it feels like to put your heart on a page. And he held Tom's hand through all of this. So I'm going to welcome the Flash up here to say a few words. Give him a round of applause.
So I actually refer to Tom as mild-mannered Tom.
Old man.
No, mild.
Not yet.
And not yet. And
Thank you.
he always surprises me, always. He always, as you brought up, turned up one day to a meeting and had something, a bit of a smudge growing on his face.
There's just not enough hours in the day to shave these days. And it was winter.
It was winter, you're keeping warm. And the other thing Ocean didn't say about our journey when we first went through Tom's poems was that I actually recited every single one of those 69 poems it was actually. 69 poems. And it was, your title is very apt because it was a really moving journey, being in that car, working through, thinking about all the words that you said, and you really did elicit a lot of emotions in me, especially the way that each of the stories, each of the poems, they are a story, and they move in this way that just has magic. And it was fantastic to be able to sort of sit there in somebody who understands poetry and understands creativity, to sit there and go through it and talk about how each of those poems reflected something different in us. And I think that's what the true power of your work here is that you have this way of using words and your experiences in life to show somebody else a different perspective on life. And that was something I learnt from you, was to stop and listen to the Kookaburras, because we did go out for dinner a few times, didn't we? Instead of just catching up and talking about the edits or talking about the format, we actually caught up over dinner. And there were so many occasions where the wait staff would just be staring at us because we'd be in hysterics, laughing about something I don't even know. See? Hysterics. Did you plan that?
There's something about Queensland as well. Even for you non-Queenslanders, there's something very special about this place. Keep going, sorry.
No, it's true, because ask Vicky Jane, I was even over in the trees before just staring at all the insects and the moving around. It's such a magical little place, so I wouldn't be surprised if you've written some of your work here. Anyway, so what Tom has taught me is to slow down and enjoy, and I think he really reflects that in his words, and he really reflects that in the poetry and the way it takes you and grabs you and moves with you. And I call Tom mild-mannered Tom because he is so mild-mannered and he speaks so softly, but there is this weight that carries on his words, and it's the weight that carries through to his poetry, and I think that's truly magic.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you. Thank you.
That's okay. And I think in closing, because I don't know how much more I can say, because I think I'm going to leave it there. I think that feels really special to leave it. He always surprises me. We show him how to get out into the world and spread his words, and he says, no, I can't do that. I'm not sure about that. And then weeks later, we're actioning another 500 book print run. I don't know how he does it, but he does. He has this way of connecting with people in person and through his words. So I'm so grateful to be here to have today with you.
Very much.
Thank you. So just to break up the speeches, we're going to go and listen to the band for a little bit. They're playing a fantastic piece called In Shining Armour, which seems very fitting for today. So if you guys like to walk out onto the grass, we'll listen to the band. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks, that's terrific. Thank you. Thank you.
As our celebrity author signs copies madly.
2 minutes. 1 minute.
Don't worry, guys, you'll get your opportunity to get Tom's signature.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll get it later.
Alrighty. Yeah, come on then. Let's get his signature. Keep him busy. Look, as he's signing, I'll continue. And he'll step back in a sec. I'm very fortunate, guys. Not everybody gets to work in a space that they love. And working with creative people has always been exciting and vibrant for me. So many people, so many stories, so many visions for their books and why they wanted to do this. Sometimes you sit there in tears. Sometimes you sit there in laughter. Sometimes you just sit there and look at each other and just feel it. It's very emotional and it's very special. I think the interesting thing about what Tom wanted to do was enlighten people. And as Jason said, give them a moment to think and reflect. Take a breath. Hey mate, every now and then we've just got to take a breath. So I also have to agree with Flash. I think Tom made me see that I need to take a breath. Because I don't take many, mate. Even when you ring me at 6:30 in the morning. Yep, that's happened a few times. Hey. Now, I said before that it takes a team to bring a publication to life. It's not just one person. And it started here in the Sunshine Coast. So the next speaker is the wonderful lady who actually brought Tom to my attention, which is Linda. Everybody give a round of applause, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. Thank you.
Deep breath.
Right, yes.
Do you want Tom to hold it for you?
Well,
I can be your
maybe,
stand.
yeah. I just need that in a moment.
Sure.
I'm not loud like these blokes are. I talk very quietly, so I hope you can all hear me. And I need notes, because that's the way I am. Oh, I need my glasses. Okay, congratulations, Tom.
Thank you,
It has been an absolute, working with you has been a delight. Your energy and self-belief mixed with such humility is fertile ground for the poet's insightful heart. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Edna from Buderim Head sends her love, congratulations.
Thank you.
She wanted so much to be here. I must get
Thanks.
a book for her on the way home.
Have to catch up with her.
Yes, it was a lovely day that day. We made Ocean cry. We were all together. Martha Graham said this about the creative process. Martha Graham, for the young ones who don't know about the oldies, was a dancer born in 1894. Her impact on dance was staggering compared to that of Picasso's on painting, Stravinsky's on music, and Frank Lloyd Wright's on architecture. Martha taught students to utilise bodies as expressive instruments, as opposed to just taking on a character, I assume. I know nothing about dance. But Martha Graham said this about creativity. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one you in all time, this expression is unique. If you block it, it will never exist through another medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It's not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable it is, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep open and aware directly to the urges that motivate you. Keep the channel open. And the kookaburra is laughing. No artist, author, writer, creative is pleased. There is no satisfaction, whatever, at any time. There is only a queer, divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than others. All time, she said. That's the entire length of time. No other you. Not a 7-second statement on the TV, Not a 3-minute or 20-minute video on Facebook Messenger or YouTube. All of time, only one you. Tom's timely, peaceful, harsh message of love is a recount of his history and also his answering the divine dissatisfaction. But he needed someone else. And this is my tiny, minute fraction of all time that led us to this celebration today. So back in 2008, I wrote journals. Thank you, Flash. And back in 2008, this just is going to wind around a story, right as a storyteller's. I wrote this in my diary, my journal. I don't diary, a journal. Back then. I was invited to a seminar presentation at Hastings Library on Monday night. I nearly didn't go, and then I decided I would. Andy, my lovely son, came with me, pretending to be my agent, and for a promise of McDonald's on the way home. It was called publishme.co.nz. Awesome, inspiring, exciting and scary. This is what I've been searching for a long time. They're a web-based company who love, are passionate about and determined to help would-be writers get their books published. I am so grateful that I went. I so want this to work out soon. I have written an email to Ocean Reeve asking him for the help over the next journey of my writing. I haven't had the guts to push send yet. I hope to do that soon. I would love to get this project finished, but I do need their help. I will rewrite the email again tonight and then push send soon. I'm excited, I'm just scared. Well, I never did push send. Thank you. Ocean, back then at that seminar, all those years ago, had People Connection all over him then. I just loved that about him. But so I never sent the email. He never heard of my gratitude from that moment, but I did leave there knowing that I could continue writing. I needed skills, but mostly I needed to listen to the divine dissatisfaction. I loved words, but mostly I've loved people's stories. And after coming to Australia, I did write that book. And I never spoke to Ocean again in New Zealand. Eventually I opened a little bookshop in Buderim called Autumn Leaves. When I heard someone mention a guy called Ocean Reeves that published books and lived on the Gold Coast, I nearly fainted. My fear of sending Ocean the email didn't seem to stop what was going to unfold. By that stage I had several writers that were ready to be published. The day I picked up the phone and called Ocean was memorable. Shortly after that, Tom arrived at writing class and eventually became an appreciated part of Autumn Leaves writers that wrote around the table that tells stories. Significant moments in life will fade, but what won't be erased, and the real purpose for Storm Clouds and Silver Linings, is not actually this lovely event. It is the hundreds of people already affected by Tom's poems, story, and his dad's paintings. Not one other could do this. It would not exist if he hadn't followed his queer, divine dissatisfaction. And that keeps us marching towards that unique expression. Tom, I believe your dad would have felt exactly the same while he was doing every painting. He created them, sold them for his family's needs. It shows the measure of his heart that he's actually been buying those back so that they're all back together. And I do agree that is absolutely another book, that story. Storm Clouds and Silver Linings is the result of divine dissatisfaction and blessed unrest that is doing its job, speaking to hearts and stilling restful souls. It's been a privilege and I'm grateful.
Thanks, Linda. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, that's the universe telling us something, Thomas, don't you think? Thank you, Linda. Appreciate
Even though
it.
the kookaburra stopped.
It was listening, mate. Listening. Alrighty. Wow. You got me. I got chills with that one. Creativity. We're born in this world creative. Okay, no limits. We dance, we sing, we play, and we don't have any restrictions. We're innocent. We go through an education system. We go through a social expectation that we have to get a job and work towards a family and buy a house, whatever. And we forget about the child that's within us. The true creative is the adult that still shows that child. Clearly, I do. I wear a Superman t-shirt every day. Tom breeds that child. Every time I catch up with you, you're just fun to be around. You're always smiling. Children play a huge role in our own development, in our own personal development. And I know how important Tom's children are to this development. So it would be amiss if we did not hear from your wonderful children. What do you reckon?
Everyone might start going home.
That's when you start talking, brother.
Exactly.
I would like to please give a round of applause for Catherine, Louisa and Will Stodulka.
Thanks, Jason.
Dad doesn't have too much faith in what we're going to say, obviously.
Thank you, Catherine.
So firstly, on behalf of the three of us, it's just a huge congratulations. I know that you all know this man as Tom, but we know him as Dad. And I think that this is a pretty special journey that we have taken with Dad. We've heard poems written on the spot. We've heard poems from 20 years ago written in the Navy. We've had readings. We've had emails sent to me. I've shared them with my friends. But the most important thing, actually, is that we're all here today. So Dad means something different to all of you, I'm sure. I'm sure every one of you has a story about Tom. I'm sure every one of you can tell, could probably look at this book, actually, and find a poem that's directed at you. You could... Dozens. They're all about you. They're all about Les. Everyone else can go home. No, but I think actually what is quite special is that you can open this book and see where you fit in this, because Dad's poems are about the people he meets. Dad's poems are about the things that he does, the things that he sees. They're about nature. They're about hardship. They're about beauty. But actually one of the most exciting things actually is that they're about Dad's positive outlook on life. So this is called, it's silver linings. Have you ever met a more positive man than Tom Stodulka? Have you ever met somebody who could take a heartbreaking situation and see the silver lining? Have you ever been upset, frustrated, angry, sad, and had a chat with my dad and not felt better afterwards? I mean, you can see that if you just flick through some of the pages of this book. There's an ode to kindness. There's a poem called If It Will Brighten Someone's Day, Say It. There's a poem called Compromise. There's a poem called Love and Life Celebrated. These poems are about the things that Dad sees on a daily basis, but they are about the people that he engages with as well. They're about you guys. So thank you all for coming so much, because it means the most, I think, to Dad that he can share his poetry with people. None of you are reading these poems for the first time in a book. You've all probably had Dad call you up and say, I've just got a new one. I'll just read it to you just quickly. Dad, it's 3 in the morning.
6 in the morning.
No, it's 6 in the morning. For me, I'm on a time zone issue, so, it can be whatever time in London. Oh, Catherine, I've just got a new one. I'll just read it for you. I'm about to jump on a call, Dad. It's all right, it'll only take a second. I'll just read it to you. My favourite ones, actually, are obviously the ones about the three of us, because, Gen Y, self-centred. So it may kind of please you all to look through to see to Tommy on his 21st birthday, to Louisa for her 21st birthday. To Catherine, forgot to write it to you on your 21st birthday, but I have made up by putting a poem in the book. The way that Dad describes us is one of the most important things to me. He's immortalised it in this book. To his favourite son, only son, favourite son, he's with friends and mates. He continues to live the life we can all be proud of. To our boy, our mate, and our friend. For Louisa, I'm sure favourite daughter, because that's for a reason, she's very special. Our love, our heart, our achiever, true blue, gracious, loving, always our Lou. And to me. Catherine, you're a gem, a jewel in our crown. I could read the whole poem, but you guys go read it away. It's a wonderful one. But the most important thing, actually, is that we've always grown up with Dad sort of speaking, laughing, sharing amazing things that he's come across, whether it's an article in, the Queensland Law Society Journal, through to poetry when we were young. I mean, Will knows A Thing of Beauty is a Joy Forever by John Keats off by heart. I grew up saying, Nature's First Green is Gold, the amazing poem by Robert Frost.
Or Poe. Edgar Allan Poe.
I've just Googled it and
It's Frost.
it's definitely Frost.
We'll have to do another edition. I'll be sued.
I don't know. We'll Google that later. But the most important thing actually is that we've always heard words. We've always been around sort of creativity with Orpa's beautiful, beautiful paintings, which are so specially immortalised in this book. But now we actually have, our dad in a book. We've got your friend in these words. And we know that, this isn't about anything today except for your relationship with Tom, with my dad. He's one of the most special people that you will ever meet. I don't think any of you would be here today unless, yes, these words touched you, but actually this man touched you, because he's someone who we all cherish as his family. But I think each and every one of you is here because you cherish him too. So thank you for coming. I absolutely can't imagine not being here today. We're so lucky to have Dad in our lives. And you're all so lucky as well, because he's the best man alive. So thank you so much for coming.
Where's Marge?
Do you want to come up?
Where are
Marge?
you, darling? Come on.
Okay, very good.
Louisville, you're next.
No, I really can't compete with Catherine at all, despite her middle child syndromeness. All I want to say is thank you for your love and support. Oh, very good. Yes, distracted. Go that way. And I'm sure Tibbs will say the same. Thank you always for supporting us, and we're so happy to be able to support you today, Fash. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Very good.
Are you saying something? I just want to say I'm really proud of Dad for what he's done with this book, and probably more importantly with the process of putting it all together. And I think it's a truly accurate expression of his authenticity and his genuine nature, and his ability to connect with people. And those are the real key qualities that I look up to in Dad, and that have inspired me and have really had an impact on me. And I always, looking at him and looking at his relations with people, I always knew that he had this special ability to connect with people and get the most out of people, and get the best outcome from, as Catherine said, any situation. And I never really understood it, but I now sort of see it as it being his authenticity and his genuine compassion and care for people and for those close to him and to strangers. So I'm really proud of Dad for this book and the expression that it is for those qualities and the impact that he's had on so many people, which again is shown with everyone being here and everyone that I've spoken to so far. So thank you to Dad for his example, and for everyone for being a part of this really special time.
Good one, Tibbs. Very good.
Thanks.
Thanks. Congratulations.
You're a bit of a lucky man there, mate. Hey, I only wish that one of my 4 children would stand up and say such lovely things about me. That was awesome. It was wonderful to watch and hear your kids reflect on how important a role you played in who they've become. And they are amazing kids. Awesome. Okay, changing tack for a little bit. We're going to have another song from the band, but before we go to that, I need to tell you a little bit about them. So this is the Matthew Flinders Anglican College Band, and they are heading to LA, New York, Washington and Chicago later this year. 55 of them are going over there. And part of them being here today is obviously to make all of us aware that they are fundraising for this trip. So this next piece of music they're going to play is by Tate Castles, which is the son of Frank. Is that right? It is. Yes. Were you listening, Tom?
I haven't had the privilege of meeting all the band.
Oh, they're wonderful,
and the
mate.
players.
They're very good. They're very good. And Tate is going to play Souvenir di Poto. So please make your way around and enjoy the music. We'll be back with the star very soon.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I know the food is wonderful and I know the drink is luscious and I know the band is also very beautiful. But we've got one more speech, so I need your attention, guys. Thank you very much. Okay. I run a book marketing mentorship program, and in that mentorship program I take the author through about 8 or 9 sessions, educating them on the ways to market their book. Mentoring Tom has been interesting, to say the least, and I'm going to be 100% honest. When it got to the point of pre-sale, he hadn't really done much. And I was talking to Flash, I was going, I don't know, mate, I don't know how he's going to go. Then we get to the pre-sale stage, which is when he lets all of you guys know, if you'd like to get a copy of the book, this is what I'm offering. And I thought at best you'd have rather low numbers, I did. Would you believe it? He absolutely smashed it. We had, I think, Vicky Jane, my wife, was the one that was dispatching them all. She didn't like Tom that week. She was very busy. But we were so...
It's not true, I did like
We were so satisfied by the support that was shown behind Tom's poetry. This was the moment that he did 2 things right down to the letter, which was the email campaign and the text message campaign. And it worked wonderfully because, as Flash said earlier, as of this week coming, there is a second print run, another 500 books to be printed. So what is here today, and there's only a few, are the last of the first edition, which is amazing. Well done, Tom. Oh, he did it all. Well, don't look at me, mate. I didn't do much. Okay, so time for me to pipe up and time for you to pipe up. All right? Congratulations, Tom.
Thanks.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Now, it's moments like these you move to this. Somebody very kindly brought me this today. They must have known. Thank you very much. Thank you. The lady who can speak 5 languages. Czechoslovakian, German, Yugoslavian, Polish. Thank you. So that was very thoughtful. So I really should move to this because this is a very nervous time. Thanks. But we better not, because there can be consequences. Now, I think this is the easy part for me because everyone's already done all the hard work, and I'm really here, I think, just to read a poem or 2. But that wouldn't quite be right when I think of how many of you have made it here today, travelled long distances, whether it's been Ken and Elaine from Sydney and Noosa, and Russell and Cheryl from Mackay, driving down last night, contending with the Bruce Highway with all its changes and the never-ending footprint of our world, which is something we all have to contend with. And that features in the poems, and I guess trying to stay positive despite the challenges which we're all facing, or our children are facing, or our grandchildren are facing. So I guess those any opportunities to share thoughts and concerns and loves, hopes and wishes can provide an opportunity and something special for every one of us. But all the beautiful words have been said here today just about the role that every one of you have played in my life. And it sounded like I've done all the work, but I've done nothing. It's what you've done for me, every one of you, over a period of now 67 years, just about, because I've got two school friends here today, Andrew Mutton from Ocean Road in Victoria, and Rod Solomons from Noosa and formerly India and other parts of the world. But that wasn't the point. The point was about the two different schools. They were completely from different schools that I attended, and they both took me under their wing. I seem to need a lot of time under people's wings. And that's continued throughout my whole life. I was going to start by saying this has been quite an interesting week. It's been NAIDOC week. It's Bastille Day today, and it's my mother and father's wedding anniversary today. And Dad's not around anymore, but he is in the book and in our thoughts in many ways. And Mum's 95, she's down in, not quite, Ken, you're 95. My mum's only 95 and 3/4. That she would have obviously liked to be here, and my brother as well from Canberra, but anyway, they're here with us in spirit. But I can't just stop at the school situation. I've got to move on to the 20 years in the Navy. And the warrant officers here who put me under their wing, Les and Pat, Les Dwyer and Pat Scully. And I'll never forget when I started working with the Admirals in Naval Support Command in the mid-70s before they sent me off on my sea journey, my sea cruise. And Les was the warrant officer, or Chief Petty Officer at that stage, in Naval Support Command in the Remington building. And Les had passed everything through and had done all the work. And all I had to do was say, concur. That was a wonderful journey, a wonderful introduction to my time in the Navy. It was probably a bit too risky for me to do anything much more than say concur at that early stage, because even though I had the rank of lieutenant, after having been a private in the King's School Cadets, and was a terrible disaster in that role, and it wasn't really me at all. But then joining the Navy as a lieutenant with the accolades, emoluments and gratuities of going into the Navy as a lieutenant after I'd been a legal officer for legal aid in the New South Wales Law Society. So that was sort of part of the beginnings. But I digress. But it's just so important to pick up on the backup that I've had from every one of you here today, whether it's the writers that I've met through Linda and the backup from Linda. I mean, you know, just noticing autumn leaves there in the Buderim Woolies car park and thinking, oh, I'll just drop in to see if I can buy a book or two from Linda. And next thing I joined the writers group, and you've heard a bit about that. And Linda would give us homework. We'd have this homework and you'd have to write a story or two, and the rest is history, because that then connected with me with Ocean and with Jason and Vicky, as you've heard. She's had to send out all the books all around Australia. I understand you can get it through Amazon for about $5 or $10, can't you? And I said, more than that, mate. I said the other day in a place where my books were, and I said, look, my books are selling like hot cakes. And the guy said, yes, but a hot cake only costs $3.50. And you want $20 out of us. There must be some disconnect here. I haven't talked about my wife, Janet. Janet and I met in the Navy in the mid-80s, and Janet was the naval social worker and I was the Commodore's staff officer. I didn't have the role of legal officer at that stage. They sort of put us through different roles as secretarial roles, staff officer roles, or the legal role I had. And there's a story in that, how Janet met me in the car park. I was where I was accommodated in the wardroom. Janet was just joining, and you can imagine it was quite a challenge for a civilian to come into the Navy. Never had anything to do with the Navy, except her father was in the Z Force. Probably had connections with your time, Ken, in the Second World War. And her grandfather was a submariner in the Royal Navy and the Royal Australian Navy. So it was funny how there was that naval connection. But despite that, of course, Janet wasn't exactly going to be comfortable coming in as a civilian in this completely different world to what she had previously known as a social worker in Albury, Wodonga. And I wasn't very well, and I was just working on the car, and and I must have looked an absolute sight. So I think Janet, as the social worker, took pity on me, and I was under her wing then. And the rest is history in relation to that story as well. And there's many stories about that. And Janet, if I can just acknowledge that Janet sort of organised everything here today to make sure that we were fed and looked after and nurtured, just like when I met her in the mid-80s when I wasn't feeling very well and had to be taken under her wing. And of course, I should say that Janet has just come back from overseas, from Norfolk Island. Catherine's just come in from overseas, from London, Bali and Singapore, and Louisa's up from Sydney. The Navy connection continues. And Tibbs, of course, from Barcelona. And Jessica, his beautiful fiancée, and her parents here today as well. Thank you. And just in relation to having been able to organise us, and I need to thank Frank as well for the venue and our office upstairs. And there's many of you who I really need to thank. Mike Maguire, a fellow mediator who's come up from Brisbane, and Steve Quinlan, and my very good friend. We do cappuccinos probably 3 days a week. So we know every coffee shop. So as a result, all the books are in every coffee shop we go to every second or third day. And Steve must sometimes wonder, now Tom, what are you up to now? I'm embarrassed. Anyway, there's stories in that as well, and I do that cappuccino thing with a lot of you, and I just love that. And if I haven't done it enough with some of you, there's still, as somebody said before, I've still got a few years left, which is despite being close to 70 years and 10. But I just wanted to thank Ken here today as well, and I want to thank all the elders, of which I can say I'm one as well now, so it's not offensive to say that, Ken. Ken is Rod's dad, and Ken and Elaine were very privileged, I'd have to say, that they were lucky enough to travel around Australia. And being in the Navy, you travel all around Australia. You're either in Western Australia or in the Eastern Seaboard. And I think Ken was out there thinking that Tom needs a bit of guidance. Tom needs to have somebody so he can crawl under their wing. And in my first sea journey in 1976, I was in Mackay. And we were doing the Suva, Vila, Mackay and Townsville trip. That was my orientation trip. We were on board the HMS Duchess, which was the ship that replaced the Voyager, of Melbourne Voyager fame, from the 60s. And that's where I wrote that first poem in 1976. And it's quite a depressing poem. It was not that long after the Second World War. So it sort of tied in, and I'm getting notes and nudges to wrap up, which I will do. But I just wanted to say, they had us out there at sea. There were two of us, two legal officers. And I found it very frustrating that I didn't know where we were. So I had my own shell road map. And there was a classroom for the midshipmen who were doing all their navigation training around the Whitsunday Passage. And we were passing this island and that island and this island. And I thought, now the idea is to do what they're doing up on the bridge. I'll have my own little setup with my own compass and my own little shell road map. So I knew which every island was, because when I went up to the midshipmen on the bridge and asked, what's this, where are we now? They were obviously too busy and thought, who's this idiot legal officer, brand new, who doesn't know anything, has the rank of lieutenant and throwing his weight around. Not that I would do that, but you know what I mean. But getting back to Ken, there I was in Mackay. We had a ship's concert to prepare that night, and I had to quickly go into town, the ship was alongside, and buy some things for the concert. Next thing, there's Ken Solomons, on business in Mackay, and the same happened in Western Australia. So that's been sort of a part of the story, and just getting the backup of every one of you here today. It's been an absolutely wonderful journey. I haven't covered the Northern Territory. Josephine Stone's here with her daughter Madeline, and I was privileged enough to work in the Northern Territory for 5 years. Janet and I and the kids were up there in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the support I got from them, as I get from the mediators and the work we do as mediators, and the lawyers and the friends, every one of you, Ocean and Jason and Vicky and Jenny Calvert. Who have I missed out? I hope I haven't missed anybody. Jeff and Del, who've just come down from Cairns, my other naval friends. When I was in HMAS Cerberus, we were doing the basic supply course, and Jeff and I were on that course together. Jeff was a very experienced naval officer at that stage, having worked in the Fleet Air Arm and had been in the Navy for many years. And I guess another person who took me under their wing, being a relatively new legal officer just coming across from Western Australia. And we had to prepare for a ship's concert. Another concert sounds like the story of one's life in the Navy. It's not really like that. And I had to prepare to play the piano that night. And I had won at a wardroom function about 5 or 6 bottles of alcohol. It was a special, one of those. You occasionally win something in your life. Never a great lotto win or anything fancy like that, but a few bottles of grog. And I don't really drink except quite rarely. And it was a very stressful 6-month course, and we were getting to the end of it. And I ended up, one of the bottles was a bottle of muscat. Now, I know you like the odd port, Steve, but muscat, I think, is worse. It has terrible consequences, so I absolutely recommend nobody hits the muscat. And here I was, needing to be ready to play the piano, and I couldn't. And so I said to everyone around me, look, I think I've got a problem here. Get some coffee into me. I've got to play the piano tonight. And somehow, with everyone taking me under their wing, I managed it. Anyway, thanks very much to every one of you, to Alan here with the team, Darren for all the video and recording work, Ken Flaherty from the media, and the other day, some of you might get the Glasshouse Mountains and Mullaney News. Now, can I highly recommend that? You can probably get it on the internet. There's a beautiful article about today. Thank you so much to every one of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Ocean. Oh, there's a poem I've got to read you. Ocean, what a stuff up.
Right, I was waiting.
Just a very... See that? I think there's something in that water. Very quickly. Love and its idiosyncrasies. That was written on the 29th of May, 2011. A whim, a dream, a fancy. To love, to be loved. To share, to give, to receive and accept. with no sense of guilt or calculation, to be the person that you are, to stand proud and not have a sense of remorse. Go and be counted amongst the guilty and the fallen. Forgive and accept forgiveness as a right, as a gift, as a reward for being the best you can be. You are a unique being on this beautiful earth. You are special. You are supreme. You are serene. You give, you take, you err. You fall, you rise up, you demand, you judge. You share, you love, you hate. You're a human made to love and be loved. But always give, as it is the giving of yourself that true love is forevermore. There's only one other today. Some words after seeing Red Dog, True Blue. Most of you have probably seen the very special movie, written just this time last year, 7th of June 2017. The good memories we get to keep. Yes, dear God, may we always keep them. They make it all worthwhile, to help bring about a smile. It was all about a dog, not just any dog. It was about a dog called Blue, the red dog. It was about the spirit, the land, and the power of nature itself. It is about the simple things in life that make all the difference. Simple, but also complex, all at the same time. Another one of life's contradictions. Isn't life one big paradox? Our memories of childhood, of school, of a pet dog, a family cat, the chooks in the backyard, the walks along the beach and swimming in the deep, cold lake, Grandma's cookies, I should say yours as well, Elaine, Mum's cakes and Dad's magic and diverse skills, happy times amidst the sadness, coming of age and boyhood experiences and dreams, of family, of friends and camaraderie, of those we call friends and brothers, of those who we just disliked, mostly for no reason. There were those who helped form our values, who set examples and helped to forge our goals. We had our challenges and our prejudices, created in the natural order of things, learning each day to be better and gaining some of life's skills, to learn to cope with the challenges and future adversity. To quote Einstein, it is adversity that it introduces a person to themselves. So much truth in the wisdom and deep understanding of philosophers and the sage. Always hang on to the good memories. They are truly priceless and traverse every age. Thank you. I forgot to mention members of the Navy League here today as well, and members of the Naval Association, and I'm a member of the Navy League. We haven't had a meeting for some months, so this is very much an occasion for us to do many things, all part of that multi-skilling that we all have to be so good at in this day and age. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Stick around. Okay, so a couple more things. Are we running some sort of competition today?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
The deal is another 2 prizes. Now, look at that. Here they are. Now, everyone who bought a book today, did you end up with one of these bits of paper? As in, did you write your name down? Because I'd hate anyone to miss out. Now, do you think, Dolly, Janet, you're going to come up and draw this, please?
So which is first, the painting or the bubbles?
No, the painting.
Okay. I don't want to choose my own.
Well done, Doll.
Ken and Elaine.
That's for the Stodulka original.
Oh, wow.
That is amazing, Ken. That is really fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I say just a couple of words. I, at 95, looking back on life, I think life is like a carpet, a magic carpet. And the threads are made up by the people you meet along the way that make it so important, and this is one of them. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you. Now the Bollinger. Now you better not win it again, Bob. Andrew and Chris. Awesome. Well, it'll be easier to carry than the painting.
You must have done that on purpose.
Absolutely. Here they are. Thanks,
fantastic.
Andrew. Thank you.
And could I say a word too? Tom and I go back a long time. I first met Tom in 1961. There's two little boys in primary school. So he's been a lifelong friend. I don't know whether I followed you around Australia or you followed me, but we've lived in Perth at the same time, in Brisbane at the same time, in Canberra at the same time, one of those things. So he's been a true friend all these years and will continue to be true friends forever.
Thanks, Andrew.
Alrighty, a couple more things. Don't forget to contribute to the Matthew Flinders Anglican College for their trip over to the US. This book is also available as an audiobook, an ebook, Tom's website, Amazon, our website. It's available everywhere. A few stores, I'm sure. And I'm sure to say this will not be the last we see of Tom Stodulka's creativity. You spoke a lot about how all these people took you under their wing, Tom. I think what you've done here is you've taken all of us under yours. Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks.
Go and have some fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.